Hello, everyone, and happy Halloween. It's interesting to note that here in Central Europe, we actually don't celebrate Halloween, which in Western countries is the main attraction for kids. They're dressing up in certain costumes, scary costumes, and then they go to places and houses, and they scream trick or treat. The obvious roots for this festival is very similar or are very similar to what we have here in Central Europe, where we don't celebrate, as I said, Halloween, Halo all evening, but something similar and a little bit more sinister or more serious, we could say, because we are visiting the cemeteries on November the 1st. It is the so-called All Saints' Day, and on November the 2nd, it's the Day of the Dead. And so instead of carving pumpkins, which actually became into fashion lately with the kids, but it was never actually a Central European feature, we go to cemeteries, we take a lot of flowers, and we light candles. And the reason to light candles is very similar to what the kids do with their costumes and with the what is it? Warning, trick or treat. Yeah, it is a warning, certainly, that if you don't give us treats, we will trick you. Because what happened in old times, the people realized that during these 3 days, these couple of days, the veil between the worlds was the thinnest, and we could actually look into the fourth dimension, which is not a nice place, to say the least. It is the so-called astral plane, where those entities, ghosts, all kinds of apparitions live, those who couldn't go towards the light. And one reason why we go to the cemeteries is to appease the dead, the souls of the dead. That's why we bring flowers as an offering, and that is why we light candles, because in this way we are opening up a light tunnel for them to leave if they want to. So that's the idea behind it. So even those who don't really believe in apparitions and ghosts and such, even they can sense or see certain scary things. So the scariness of the whole festival is, of course, blown away by the fact that children are playing games, but it's still there. The roots are still there. Anyhow, the reason for this particular video is not Halloween, but it happens to be important. I need to find my, hold on 1 second. This is what I want to share you, the Venus Uranus Trine. I can't always find how to do this. Anyhow, let me give you they changed a couple of things in here it is. In Zoom, where I'm recording this, I'm running into all sorts of problems. I need to sit down and see the new features, because I just sometimes they just escape me. Anyhow, here's the chart, and as you can see, the Venus-Uranus trine will be exact on November 31st at 12:51 p.m. London time. And I gave the title of this video, The Harmony of Commitment and Freedom. And the reason why I do this is very simple. My master, Judy Hall, always called Venus-Uranus aspects as the dichotomy of freedom versus commitment, especially the hard ones, the challenging ones like squares and oppositions. This one is a trine, so we can actually expect it to work brilliantly, nicely. Now let's take it apart, just the chart itself, and then we are going to take apart the aspect itself. In the London chart, you have this big traffic jam in Scorpio, starting with asteroid Lilith, revolt against injustice, ending with Ceres, the nurturing principle. As you can see, the Mercury Mars conjunction that was very prominent in the eclipse chart is separating, and the sun seems to be at the midpoint of Mars and Lilith, two fighting archetypes. Mars, of course, is the warlord, and Lilith fights against injustice, and the sun is highlighting and illuminating both. The Aries North Node conjunction is still very tight. It has been there for weeks, and it will be there for weeks. They don't seem to be separating at all. This particular aspect is the year 2023 main karmic astrological aspect, I would say, because it means that drastically altered outward circumstances force us to adopt a new destiny choice, which is linked to Aries, fighting for our rights, fighting for what's due to us. In the London chart, Uranus is on the IC, not just in the London chart, but everywhere else. The Vesta Astra conjunction is already separating, so it's not going to be there, but after the 7th of October, something like that, because it's going to be 5 degrees apart. But you can still focus on karma breaking. The 3 strong women in Virgo are still there. Juno, the First Lady, Black Moon Lilith, which denotes the goddess who goes back into the Garden of Eden, where she used to be banished, or was previously banished, and she goes there because she knows what to do. And then Trans-Pluto, another wife archetype, although a little bit different from Juno, because Juno is Jupiter's wife, the First Lady, the Queen of Heaven, the Mother of Gods. Whereas for Trans-Pluto, we render Persephone, who is the queen of the underworld, and she's kind of interesting enough, she is the personification of freedom and commitment, because she comes and goes freely between the two worlds, and she stays with her husband when she wants to, and she comes up to the upper world, so to speak, to visit her mother. And so the freedom commitment dichotomy is beautifully played out in the Persephone legend. So these 3 strong women are unified in Virgo at the moment, and Jupiter is conjunct Dark Moon Lilith. So this is actually it's the 3rd Lilith, but it's the second turning point in the Lilith myth. So all 3 Liliths are prominent, and as I mentioned a couple of times, to me, Mars is really aggression and violence and wars, and yes, how you exercise the will, but very often it turns into violence. Whereas the true strength without violence, the true power without violence, is Lilith, the story of Lilith. And now all 3 are prominent. Of course, if you look around in the world, you see chaos and anarchy everywhere. And again, Dark Moon is the acceptance of the curse, and Jupiter enlarges everything it touches. You can see that people don't seem to care what the consequences of their deeds are going to be. They just do whatever they want. And then if we focus on the Venus-Uranus trine, Earth trine, we can say that Uranus is retrograde, so it's still working inwardly. It's not exactly as strong as it would be. Of course, Uranus denotes chaos, anarchy, and freedom urges, but chaos as well. And in Taurus, it has been disrupting our harmony and our well-being and our security needs, and also our financial needs. It looks like the powers that be really want to impoverish mankind. If you want to save people, then lower food prices and lower electricity or any kind of energy prices. If you want them to suffer, if you want them to make poor, then raise them. And this is exactly what's happening. So it's a controlled demolition of what we used to have. The old world is being demolished in front of our own eyes. And then Venus rules this retrograde Uranus and makes it an exact trine with it. So it's actually a nice blessing on top of everything. did I mention the Pallas Athena South Node? I don't think I did. But actually, this is an applying conjunction. Pallas Athena will be exactly conjunct the South Node in a couple of days. The South Node is what we bring in for this incarnation from the previous ones. What we bring in is balance and diplomacy and trying to make both ends meet. And Pallas Athena is wisdom. So there is, on the one hand, there's wisdom, but of course its opposite, Aries, chaos. So try to do something under such circumstances. And let's take a look at the myth, because it is fascinating. First of all, this is Uranus and Gaia, and according to the Greek cosmology, or cosmogenesis, really, out of the chaos, out of the unformed, unmanifested material, it's not even material, not matter, it's just something, there emerges Gaia, the Mother Earth, and she immediately creates a son. She delivers a son. And with this son, they, of course, become a couple, and they create a lot of gods and goddesses. Actually, these are the Titans and all kinds of other creatures. And Uranus is very upset because he wants beautiful children, and Gaia is unable to deliver beautiful children. So he is very dissatisfied and unhappy, and rejects all these children, who become also part of the womb of Gaia. Gaia's womb is full of the children that she's going to deliver and the ones that Uranus rejected. And finally, she asks her second-born son, who is the firstborn for Uranus, who is Kronos for Saturn, to castrate his father. Now, if we look at the manifestation of the elements here, you can see that Gaia is the earth, and Uranus is air, because it's the sky god. And if you mix air and earth, you get a sandstorm, something not very nice. So of course they can't produce beautiful children. And of course, Gaia is very unhappy with the situation, but instead of going up to Uranus and saying, please leave me alone, just leave me alone, okay? And let's not do this anymore. She asks her own son to rectify the problem. And yes, Kronos dutifully castrates his father, and then he throws his genitals into the ocean. And what happens in the ocean? Interestingly enough, Aphrodite, Venus, is being born out of the waters and out of the castrated genitals of Uranus. So finally, Uranus is able to produce, so to speak, a beauty, actually eternal and uncompromised beauty, which is Venus, Aphrodite. The story has many ramifications, and if you look at the myth, we can actually draw a lot of conclusions. First of all, the fact that earth and air can't produce, the two rational elements can't produce beauty, of course. The second thing is that beauty can come from a horrible, bloody deed, which is very disturbing. But if you look at human history, especially the history of Europe, and it's very unfortunate and actually very sad that in the last 20 years, history was not being taught in schools. In Germany, they learned about the Holocaust. I don't know what they learned about in England. Maybe there's still history in England, but not in the Benelux countries, not there. You have a lot of immigrants who come from a different culture. They're not being taught European history. But here, European history is full of wars, and there's a bloody, horrible wars. Just think of the 100-Year War, think of the 30-Year War, think of the two world wars, first and second in the 20th century. But in the last 70 odd years, we didn't have any bloody wars in Europe. And what happened was became cretins, became idiots, especially in the Western countries. They started to deal with problems that are no longer, not even problems anymore. They created problems instead of the ones. Think about the fact that when a country is in war, the number of suicide goes down. Actually, it goes near zero. Think about this. And actually, this is what happened to us. We created beauty around us because, yes, let's face it, Western culture is beautiful. And we forgot about the horrible aspects of war. And sometimes we need the blood, we human beings, unfortunately, need some sort of horrible event in order to realize, wait a second, this is not what I want, how I want to live. This is not what I want. I want to live in peace and beauty and harmony and culture. So instead of accepting or creating beauty on its own, we can't. We need horrible deeds and then shun those horrible deeds in order to arrive at beauty again, which is a terrible thought, but it's true. If you look at history, this is what you can learn from it. So yeah, we don't have the recipe for beauty, unfortunately. We don't know how to create beauty. We don't know we don't have a step-by-step user's manual, okay, for it. Beauty has its own manifestations, and it can come from anything. That's the story of Aphrodite. And another thing is that, of course, Aphrodite, that's why she can't actually be curbed. She is carefree and very strong feminine who does what she damn well pleases. So that's those are the ramifications of the myth. And just to add the element, as I forgot to mention you the element. So earth and air can't create beauty, but if you add water, the element of emotions, then beauty is being born. Interesting lesson to us. Okay, here's the complex planetary picture for London. And this again is only for London. You will have the Uranus, Venus, Pallas Athene, Ceres thing. So there's actually there are two classic trapezes, and if I come to think of it, I didn't enumerate all the configurations here because it's important that this is a complex planetary picture. But as you can see, there is a crown with the mystic rectangle, ascendant, descendant. Again, this is only good for London. Uranus and opposite Ceres. That is what we have. And on the tip of the crown, you have Venus. So actually, there's freedom urges, a creation of harmony, and at the same time, the ascendant, descendant, which is, of course, you and your partner, or we as such, and the enemy, if you want a mundane understanding. And then Ceres is the nurturing principle. There's also cardinal T-square with Pallas Athena and the ascendant, descendant, which, again, if you want to interpret it on a personal level, it is about how to move, how to be wise, how to use wisdom in order to understand myself and my partner. And on the global level, we need wisdom in order to rectify or just do something about our opponents and the things that is happening, the things that are happening in the world. There's also, again, as I said, there are actually two classic trapezes, part of this crown structure. One is the ascendant, descendant, Venus, Ceres, and Venus Ceres is about that's the top of, so to speak, the stage of the trapeze, and Venus is love and Ceres is nurturing. So how can we overcome this situation? By love and nurturing. Classic recipe, of course. And there's another classic trapeze. If you look at the Uranus Ceres opposition, which is a bit wide for my taste, but anyhow, it's kind of there. And here the top is Venus and the descendant, and again, create harmony with your partner. And there's also a cardinal earth engine involving the ascendant, Uranus, and Pallas Athena. But again, so these structures are already there in the crown and the classic trapeze. And it's not really closing, so the orbs are a little bit wide, because here between Pallas Athena and Ceres, it's more than 30 degrees. It's actually, I mean, less. It's like 27 degrees only, so you don't have the semi-sextile. Here are the transcendental celestial objects. On the ascendant, we have Arrokoth, and I'm going to show you Arrokoth in a minute. From now on, every time there is a new TNO or centaur prominent, I will tell you how we interpret in karmic astrology. On the descendant, we have Castor, which is Alpha Gemini, the Alpha star, which should be the brightest star, but unfortunately, Pollux became brighter. This is the Beta star, and Castor is actually dimming, kind of, quite interesting, and Pollux is becoming brighter. So here, Alpha and Beta are swapping positions. On Uranus, you have Atropos, the Fate, who is cutting the thread of life, Lempo, who is a TNO, and he is a prominent figure in Finnish mythology. Actually, he was a creator god for the Finnish nation, but in Christian times, he became an outcast. He became the devil. And Lempo's figure shows what happens in a new era with the old gods. They are demonized. And we also have on Uranus, we have Botane, which is Delta Aries, and not a very, very bright star. It's 4.5, so barely visible. Actually, nowadays, unless you have very bright conditions, clean conditions, and good eye. And again, the whole constellation of Aries is about go-getting and understanding how your power is working for yourself. On Ceres, we have Osiris, the lord of the underworld, and Zuben el-Shamali, which is Beta Libra. And Zuben el-Shamali is actually the northern scale of Libra. And both scales are linked to how we are creating new energy levels, new patterns in society. And Zuben el-Shamali is linked to negative form. So it's a beta star, of course, and the beta star is always giving the shadow side of the constellation. Libra is about creating balance, and how you create balance depends on what you do with society. And sometimes when you want justice, look at social justice warriors, look at DI, the equity, inclusion, and what is it? Diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is a horrible, horrible thing, because it creates equity where there shouldn't be. People are not the same. We will never be the same. We have different abilities. We have different talents, and we should be treated accordingly, and not according to our skin, and not according to this neo-Marxist idea that everyone is the same. No, we are not the same, believe me. And our leaders know this perfectly well. They just want to tip us against each other, one another. So that's Zuben el-Shamali, which shows you the negative aspects of this equality project, which they are trying to push us. And on Pallas Athena, there's Sappho. And actually, Sappho is not what you may think. It's not just, she was the lesbian poetess in Greek literature. So for a long time, we thought that Sappho, of course, is linked to homosexuality or lesbian behavior or way of life, but actually it isn't. That was a very interesting manifestation, very sad one, that in big tragedies where a lot of people die, and there were a couple of ones in Hungarian history where we were able to obtain the birth data of the participants or the victims. And almost every one of them had Sappho prominent in their chart. And I started to research this, and finally came across why. This is a question we couldn't answer actually for a while. And then I came across a funny little myth, which I wasn't aware of, in which Aphrodite needs to go to the other bank of a river, and the ferryman takes her very quickly over, and in order to reward him, the goddess makes him the most beautiful youth on earth. And Sappho falls in love with him. But of course, it's an unrequited love, so he rejects her, and she can't bear this rejection, so he goes up to a big high cliff, and she throws herself down. So it's like a suicide energy. And I think Sappho is linked to mass suicidal events, let's put it this way. And now it's on Pallas Athena. So and it's also squaring the ascendant descendant. So we will watch what will happen during the this Halloween weekend. And then I promise you to present TNO Oracle. And the name means overcast skies in an Indian, by the language of an Indian tribe, somewhere in the Tidewater region of Virginia. And overcast skies, of course, it means big either mist or fog or just just being overcast. And in a karmic astrology, it means something that has been hidden is all of a sudden surfacing. So something, it's linked to discoveries of new or hidden things, and also the revelation of secrets. So, and yeah, I have a motto for it: if you are brave, darkness will disappear and new perspectives emerge. I like to give these little labels to TNO. So actually, Oracle, which is on the ascendant of the London chart. So watch out for news because something might be revealed. And on the other hand, the Venus-Uranus trine is really a nice energy, at long last, because we had some really nasty ones lately. So of course it's not going to last too long because Venus is fast moving, but still over the weekend you can still utilize the Venus-Uranus Earth trine. Try to find beauty, happiness, and freedom at the same time. Thank you for listening, and happy Halloween again. Bye-bye.